entrepreneur. For many Harvard Business School graduates, it is the ultimate dream. For Glenn Meekum, it was his destiny. In 1994, the Gulf War veteran, while working at multinational giant General Electric, had a revolutionary idea. He devised a plan to drive savings within the organization through an online procurement system.
I realized very quickly that this is a radical idea. It was going to change the world, I believed, but there was a lot of work to do to get it there. And so what I did was I put a business plan on the table towards the end of December, about a week before the holidays, a week before Christmas in December '94. And it was a plan to basically create a new business within GE to build this software, create a commercial group that could actually have the sophistication to be able to sell the software and the expertise, create the service to actually help buyers write good requests for quote. This was basically the preliminary, what became Free Markets later. Yeah, I expected a meeting where they would kind of get up and be ready to kind of take the hill, and instead I got huge criticism, and I was shocked. My thought had always been, gee, as soon as I can find a big enough opportunity that's really worth it, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to leave this sort of corporate ship and jump ship and start a business. The first sale, I like to remember and say that my first sale was to get Sam to join me.
I had an idea for my own business, and it was a small little idea. And I called Glenn because I knew that he was involved in sourcing at GE, and there's always suppliers who need some help. And that was what I wanted to do, is find some companies that were suppliers to GE who needed some help. And Glenn said, well, that's an interesting idea, but let me tell you about my idea. And that was December 1994. And I knew enough about sourcing to know, well, this is a pretty big idea, and there was a lot of reasons to believe it would work. And I went and I ran some numbers and looked up the size of some markets, and this was a market that was so big that it took me about 24 hours to figure this is this is what I want to do.
In '95 was just this great liberated year. It was the development project year. We wrote a great business plan. We raised $1 million. We made huge personal commitments of our own energy, time, wealth, families. Trish Kinney, Diane Meekum, our kids. We were just totally committed.
We plan on working a couple days together each week. And if it was in Wilton, I was staying in his guest room. If it was in Pittsburgh, he was staying in my guest room or just around the corner at a club that we were members of. We were just trying to save as much money as we could, and we'd fly back and forth on frequent flyer miles and try to get multiple things done on trips, and so it's back and forth like that.
I was out here in Pittsburgh a lot. He was in Connecticut a lot, where I was living. And I was working out of my basement office. He was working out of his attic. It was the basement attic, back and forth routine. But I started spending time here in the Pittsburgh area and in Sewickley, where Sam lived, and I really liked it. I liked the medium-sized city. As we started to understand the costs, it was clear that real estate's less expensive, rent is less expensive, salaries are lower, so the cost of doing business is lower. It's just a good arbitrage. And so I was attracted by that and the quality of life in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a great city with, it's a city. It's got sports, it's got arts, it's got universities, it's got museums, and yet it's only a 15 or 20-minute drive to all those things. When we looked analytically and said what cities really meet our criteria, it was Chicago or Pittsburgh. And we chose Pittsburgh because Sam was already here. One family had to move, not two. The costs were lower, and he liked the quality of life, and I liked it too. We rented 3,000 square feet in an old building called the Century Building. Just a little, we used to call it the submarine because it was a long, narrow building anyway. And we rented half of one floor, which was even narrower lengthwise. And we had 3,000 square feet for $11 a month, month-to-month rent. We didn't improve it at all. We took it as is with, this kind of grass wallpaper on the, this old tiki grass wallpaper on the walls, and it was really awful space, but we loved it. We just loved it. And we went to work every day there, worked hard, and '95 was just a fun experience because we gathered a really fun group of people. We gathered this small group of people, had a lot of fun together, and worked really, really hard. We worked really hard. We worked every day really, really hard to first, write a software specification, to get that coded so we had software that would work, that we could actually run run different markets, run auctions or bids across the internet. We had just a ton of work getting that specification done during the summer.
Back then, there was no hope that you could just go out and launch a website or sell a piece of supplier software that would allow this to happen. I mean, it is interesting to remember, timing-wise, that we committed the bidware spec to development the first week of June of '95. Java 1.0, which was the first rich user interface tool in the browser technology, was announced to the world the first week of June of '95. We did our first auction in November '95. Netscape went public in August of '95. So we were way early in the whole adoption of the internet. No one knew what the internet was. No one had connectivity. This wasn't browser-based technology because browsers couldn't do all the things you needed to do at that point. So we were providing such a turnkey solution that they didn't have to have an internet provider. That was all part of the solution. We gave them a number to dial and they hit CompuServe's network. We gave them the software. We even went in some cases so far as to ship laptop computers with software running, installed, and tested in order for companies to participate in events, and then we'd have to try to collect back these computers after the fact. Whatever it took. So that was the key to market penetration for us early on, was our willingness to do whatever it took to get the buyers and the suppliers prepared to do it.
With the help of John Colonna, a member of FreeMarkets' fledgling board, Glenn secures a meeting and subsequent sale with appliance manufacturer Frigidaire. It is the first sale for the young upstarts.
We actually demoed a sample version. We actually had gotten enough done to actually be able to demo a little bit of software to them, describe the whole concept. They agreed to a second meeting. At the second meeting, after some price negotiation on what the deal would be, they agreed to go forward. And here we had convinced them, they'd agreed to go forward, and we didn't really know what to do.
We hadn't had a chance to test the buyer version. Knowing that we hadn't had a chance to test that, though, we sent me off to Dublin, Ohio, to the Frigidaire offices alone with a laptop, a little Toshiba 486 machine with bidware for buyers running on it. But we also made sure that we loaded bidware for suppliers and that we were all ready to view this thing as if we were a supplier. The auction opened, and so my software said it was open. The first bid landed, and the buyer software crashed dead as a doornail. And here I am stuck out at Frigidaire's site, and I'm thinking, I bet if I call the office, the phone's going to be disconnected, and they're all gone, and they all went home, and this thing just exploded, and they just can't face calling me to try to tell me this. But sure enough, with about 20 minutes to go, bids started to come in, and those lots started to close, and they went into overtime, and it worked exactly like we'd hoped.
It was probably a $3 million plastic injection molding bid, and we saved them $1 million.